This morning we will read from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 10, text 5. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om
Om
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Narom Cheva Narottanam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Dhyamudiyayat Nastapesya Bhatresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavatu Tamasloke Bhakte Bhavati Naistiki. The text 5. Nadya Samudra Giraya Savanaspati Viruda Valantyo Sadaya Sarva Kaman Amritu Tasyavai. Word for word translation. Nadya, rivers, Samudra, oceans, Hiraya, hills and mountains, Savanaspati, vegetables, Virudha, creepers, Phalanti, active, Usadaya, drugs, Sarva, all, Yaman, necessities, Amrito, seasonal, Tasya, for the king, Vai, certainly. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The rivers, oceans, hills, mountains, forests, creepers, and active drugs in every season pay their tax quota to the king in profusion. Purport. Since Maharaj Yudhishthira was under the protection of Ajita, the invincible lord, as mentioned above, the properties of the Lord, namely the rivers, the oceans, the hills, the forests, etc., were all pleased, and they used to supply their respective quota of taxes to the king. The secret to success is to take refuge under the protection of the Supreme Lord. Without his sanction, nothing can be possible. To make economic development by our own endeavors on the strength of tools and machinery is not all. The sanction of the Supreme must be there, otherwise, despite all instrumental arrangements, everything will be unsuccessful. The ultimate cause of success is Deva, the Supreme. Kings like Maharaj Yudhishthir knew perfectly well that the king is the Supreme Lord's agent, who looks after the welfare of the mass of people. Actually, the state belongs to the Supreme Lord. The rivers, oceans, forests, hills, drugs, etc. are not creations of man. They are all creations of the Supreme Lord, and the living being is allowed to make use of the property of the Lord for the service of the Lord. Today's slogan is that everything is for the people, and therefore the government is for the people and by the people. But to produce a new species of humanity at the present moment on the basis of philosophy and religion, justice and peace, God consciousness and the perfection of human life, in short, the ideology of godly communism, the world has to again follow in the footsteps of kings like Maharaj Yudhishthir or Parikshit. There is enough of everything by the will of the Lord, and we can make proper use of things to live comfortably without enmity between man, or man and animal, or man and nature. The control of the Lord is everywhere, and if the Lord is pleased, every part of nature will be pleased. The rivers will flow profusely to fertilize the land. Oceans will supply sufficient quantities of minerals, pearls, and jewels. The forest will supply sufficient wood, drugs, and vegetables. And the seasonal changes will effectively help produce fruits and flowers in profuse quantity. The artificial way of living depends on factories and tools. The artificial way of living, depending on factories and tools, can render so-called happiness only to a limited number at the cost of millions. Since the energy of the masses of people is engaged in factory production, the natural products are being hampered, and thus the masses are unhappy. Without being educated properly, the masses of people are following in the footsteps of the vested interest by exploiting natural reserves, and therefore there is acute competition between individual and nation and nation. There is no control by the trained agents of the Lord. We must look into the defects of modern civilization by comparison here. One should follow in the footsteps of Maharaj Yudhishthir to cleanse man and wipe out anachronism. I repeat the verse once again. Nadya samudra giraya savanaspati viruda falantyo sadaya sarvam kamanam vrittutasya. The rivers, oceans, hills, mountains, forests, creepers, and active drugs in every season pay their tax quota to the king in profusion. Om Jnana Timrandasya Chananjana Shalaka Sakshan Militam Yena Tasmai Gurve Namah Chitchetaya Manobistam Stapitam Yena Bhutani Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shiro Shiyuda Padkamalam Shirom Vaishnavam Sham Shirupam Jagajatam Sakanaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savlutam Parjana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakalita Shivishakam Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinu Bandhu Jatpate Kopesha Kopkakanta Radhakanta Namastate Taptakanshna Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshve Prishabhana Sutadevi Panamama Hariprihe Vancha Kalptrabhyasha Kripa Sindhivishya Padnam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namah Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pacharini, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachai Desatarni. Srila Prabhupada ki. So to materialistic people, this verse is very strange. Rivers, oceans, hills, mountains and so on, paying taxes that but yes, this is the science of Krishna consciousness. And the material nature responds that and how our material nature responds and how we can make material nature respond, that's a science that Krishna says, Yeya tamam papache tamstede pajamyam. Yeah. Yeya tamam papachate tamstede pajamyam. As one surrenders understand to me, Krishna says I reciprocate. And he reciprocates not only spiritually but also through nature, because Maya Dakshina Prakriti. Krishna controls material nature. So the Maharaj Yudhishthira was a Mahabhagavat, a pure devotee, and he was performing Jagya sacrifices. His main sacrifice was doing his duty as a king. That was his offer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by that, material nature started to cooperate. When we turn our face away from Krishna and we want to be independent, then nature will not agree. It will give you trouble in so many forms. And that is a lesson to be learned also for us aspiring devotees, that we are always aware, whatever we do, we must do as a sacrifice for Krishna. Otherwise, material nature will reciprocate. Because there are three kinds of karma: karma, vikarma, akarma. That wise activities when we perform wise activities, nature will give us happiness. I mean, material nature will reciprocate in the form of happiness. If we perform vikarma, then the reaction of material nature will be that it gives us suffering. But when we perform akarma, or we act only for the pleasure of Krishna, the material nature, will provide us what we need, and what we need to make further spiritual advancement. Ananya Sintyantamam Yechanapayapastete Samnitya Vyuktam Yogasena Ramyam. Krishna says, one who surrenders unto me and serves me with unalloyed devotion, I will bring what they need and preserve all spiritual advancement they made. So this was Yudhishthira Maharaj's reign. Nature had to give something, and Prabhupada gave a lecture on this again in Mayapur in 1973, June 20. So he writes, so everything in nature has to give something. That is the order. Everything that we see, Nadia, the river, why God has created the river. And this is interesting. In his lecture, he will mention that the mountains, the seas, the rivers, and the plants, they have all a service to come. They are all a service. They are engaged in the creation, and they must render service. And here we hear about that. Why has God created the river? It has got a function. Similarly, Samudra, the oceans, similarly the hills, mountains, Giraya, Savanaspati, vegetables. All these vegetables are growing, and each and every vegetable keeper has some service, but we do not know. So Prabhupada says here, all these vegetables has a natural function. That some herbs are medicines, but we don't know. We go to the doctor, Prabhupada says. That, but we don't know the value of the medicines, the value of the herbs. Yeah, because he said we go to the doctor, to a physician. Otherwise, if somebody is ill, the medicine is there. We do not know how to utilize it. Still in remote villages, in forests, they do not come to the physician, the doctors. The Bills, the Aborigines, they know so many drugs. For toothache, we go to the dentist and extract the teeth. But I've read in an Ayurvedic in Ayurvedic medicine, there is a drug route. Only if you touch this side of the mouth, all the germs collected within the teeth will come out. I've seen it. Sometimes in the year 1931 or 32, I had a very severe tooth pain. So I was taken by my servant in the jungle to a Vaidya. A Vaidya is a doctor. They cured me, and the dentist could not. I attended so many times to the dentist. I got my practical experience. And in the Ayurvedic literature, there is mentioned some drugs, the root, only if you touch here, the germs collected in the teeth, they will come out in the corner of the teeth. Some germs, sometimes it is itching. There is all germs, so they will come out. Sometimes pains in the toe, all they are germs. The germs theory is all right, but they want to cure these germs in different ways. But by nature way, there are so many drugs and roots and creepers that can cure all the diseases. And that so everything has a function in nature. That and when we have knowledge of that, we can solve certain ailments and in a certain way also in the cultivation of plants, like in Radles they do this permaculture that and they plant combination of vegetables and one vegetable protect the other. One plant, a certain plant and other vegetables, the plant will keep away flies or insects, and so there's a protection. Papa says similarly the river. The river has its function to supply water all the year. During rainy season, the water is collected on the top of the hill. It is stopped there by God's arrangement, and they come down, just like we. By power pump, we get water down to the roof to the top of the roof and stock there. Similarly, on higher level of hills and mountains, water is stocked Sometimes they are stocked in ice form, not in liquid form. So according to the seasonal changes, the ice becomes melted and the water is supplied. It comes through the river. The same thing is there. Because we have now turned to become demons. The river sometimes overfloods, killing so many men and animals at a loss. Actually, everything is meant for kamam, for supplying our necessities. As soon as you are disobedient to God, demons, nature will give you punishment. Instead of supplying you water is there, it will overflood. You will be in trouble. Bhakti Sharma many times mentioned that this verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita starts with Bayer Mukha. So when we turn our face away from Krishna, then immediately Maya is there to slap us in the face. That's the main principle. People wonder why am I suffering? But yes, are they cooperating with nature? Are they living in harmony? That this subject is discussed in Shias Upanishad, the Isavasya principle, how to live in harmony with Isha, the supreme controller. So this is real knowledge. But Prabhupada continues as these rascals. They cannot see how nature is strong and is controlling everything. Everything is controlled every moment by the Supreme Lord. And when we don't see that, then yes, then we are mudas, Krishna says. Pragati kriyamani guna kamna sarvsa ankara vimudatma kartam itamanyate. This verse Krishna says that everything is under control of material nature and done by material nature. But those with false ego, they think themselves the doer. But factually it's done by material nature. And such persons are vimudas, vimudatma, grateful. So, because that's confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, that nature controls everything, 3:27, and 9:10, Bhagavad Gita says, Mayadakshana Prakati Krishna controls everything, moving and non moving. That is a superintendent of material nature. He controls material nature. So Prabhupada concludes here. So Prakati will work nicely, provided you are also nice. Krishna conscious, nice, Krishna conscious. If you are not nice, then Devi Sakuna Mama Mama Maya Drasya. Then this material nature is very, very strong. So what's important is, yes, we come under this material nature from the moment that we forget Krishna. Everything is controlled by Krishna, but we forget, we think we are controlling. And Prahlad Maharaj calls this mentality Pritagdrista, a separatist mentality. And that separatist mentality that leads to strong reactions by material nature if we act according to this separatist mentality. That Krishna says, Mama Maidracha. It's very strong, this material nature. But these rascals, they are trying to control this flood government. That Yeah, they tried to control the flood. But we see at the moment in Los Angeles they are trying to control the fire. But 6 million people are at risk to be moved out of their houses. But they are trying. They don't have real control. That and Krishna Minergy is very strong, the Russia. These rascals, they are trying to control this flood government. So money, all the money they have is wasted. But still in this quarter they are havoc. So they create so many industrial companies that, but it creates so many reactions. It's all a waste of money. Material nature will not allow one to do all these things according to the demoniac plans they have. Deviesiguna maya mama maya dracha. You cannot control the nature's way, it's not possible. But mami vaje papachti maya etam tantita. Papa said this is the way to control nature. Factually, that when we surrender unto Krishna, then we come out of the influence of material nature. And by that, we control material nature. Factually, and that will be explained in this chapter, in this paragraph. I was reading it before, and Srila Prabhupada gives some very personal experience in this paragraph. That so I will read it. I've heard in 1900, around 1898. I was born in 1896. Prabhupada was 2 years old. So he said, I've heard, I've also seen, I remember in Calcutta there was a violent type of plague epidemic in 1898. So Calcutta was devastated. All people practically left Calcutta. Daily, hundreds and hundreds of people were dying. So we see that this is an epidemic. We got the COVID, but this is very similar. So all people practically left Calcutta. Daily, hundreds and hundreds of people were dying. I was 1 year old and 1.5 years old. I've seen what was happening, but there was plague epidemic that I did not know. He was 2 years old, Prabhupada at that time. So he said, later I heard my parents that it was an epidemic. But then that is interesting. Prabhupada gives different perspectives on doing Sankirtan here for the purpose of getting rid of suffering. So one Babaji, he organized Sankirtan, Hare Krishna Sankirtan. When there was no other way, so he organized Sankirtan all over Calcutta. And in the Sankirtan, all the people, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Parsi, everyone joined. And they were coming. They were going road to road, street to street, entering in every house. So that Mahatma Gandhi wrote, 151 you have seen. The Sankirtan party we received very nicely. There was light, and I was very small. I was also dancing, I can remember. So this is Prabhupada, 2 years old, was dancing in the kirtan. And he remembers. That's interesting. Just like our small children sometimes dances, I remember. I could see only up to the knees of the persons who were joined. And this is extraordinary. If you think in your own life was the first time you remember that 2 years old is, yeah, it means his memory is going back far. So I remembered I could see up to the knees of the persons who were joined. So the plague subsided. This is a fact. Everyone who knows the history of Calcutta, the plague was subsided by the Sankirtan movement. But interesting is that Prabhupada in the next paragraph says we should not do Sankirtan for that purpose. That's Namaparat, he says. That's the next here. Next paragraph. Of course, we do not recommend that Sankirtan should be used for some material purpose. That is Namaparat. So we have to be careful. Not that we pray to Krishna, please give me this, or protect me against that, or that, and then we chant with that purpose. And Namaparat, Prabhupada says. We chant Krishna. Chanting Krishna is a service to Krishna, Rupa Goswami says. That it says, yeah, this material sense, this blunt material, with this blunt material senses, we can not know who Krishna is. But when we use the tongue for chanting Hare Krishna, and we use the tongue to serve Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, and we use our tongue only to taste Krishna Prasad, we get purified. And by that we get to know who Krishna really is. That's really the effect of the chanting. Krishna gives us knowledge and attachment, that knowledge of him. So it should not be used for material purposes. Shama Sabhakti Kriya Praman. Sankirtan, you can utilize Sankirtan for some material purpose, but that is not allowed. That is Namaparat, because Nam, the holy name of Krishna, and Krishna, they are identical. If you cannot utilize Krishna for your personal material benefit, this is Aparat. Krishna is the Lord. You cannot engage the Lord for your service. Similarly, you cannot utilize the holy name for the Lord for some material purpose. That is not allowed. So anyway, because Yeyatama Papachante, if you want some material benefit by chanting Hare Krishna mantra, you'll get it. But it's Namaparat. For Prabhupada, you get it. But it's Namaparat. It's not good. That means we don't become purified. And we don't get the ecstasy of love of God, which is the aim of the chanting. How you shall elevate yourself to the platform of loving God. Dat is required Savai-Pumsam, Parodharma, Yato Bhakti-Radokshaye. So this verse says here that the duty of every human being, every spirit soul, is to perform pure devotional service to Krishna. So we should not utilize the holy name for material purposes. But it happens. and it happened, we got experience, we have heard, we have seen, he says. Then he comes back to the rivers, the seas, the mountains, the hills, paying the vegetables, paying taxes. That they pay taxes according to the seasonal changes. That so if we are honest, if we are, because just like in a prison house, jail, although the prisoners are criminals condemned, still there is an arrangement for comfort also by the government. There is arrangement of supplying food and all other necessities of life. Recently in Ahmedabad, when I was visiting, the prison authorities also invited us for kirtan. So I saw the criminals, prisoners. Savarmati jail. Yes, where Gandhi was also imprisoned during the political movement. So in Gandhi's room, where Gandhi was staying, they showed me, and I sat down there. So there is very good arrangement for the comforts of the prisoners, if they abide by the laws. Similarly, although this material world is just like a prison house we living entities, we have come here as punishment. And here you have that verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Factually, it's a verse from Prema Vivarta by Saradananda Pandit. Krishna Bayamukha Hana Bhoga Vanchakare Nikatasta Maya Tare Jagat Japati Adari. Now we are under control of this external energy, the material energy, and we have become controlled, just like we become controlled by the prison authorities when we are criminals, not ordinary. Ordinarily, we are free. Those who are not within the walls of the prison house are free. They are acting wherever they like, they are going, but within the law. So we see like Narada Muni is a liberated person, he can go everywhere. Spiritual world, material world. But we, because we have this body, we must remain on this small shell of this planet. We cannot go out of it. So similarly, we got freedom. There are living entities, their number is greater. Nitya Mukta, ever liberated. They live in the spiritual world, Vaikuntha planets. Nitya Mukta. Nitya Mukta means eternally liberated. They never come down in this material world. And we are Nitya Baddha, ever conditioned, eternally conditioned. And then it speaks about this Nitya Baddha, that we are eternally conditioned because, but he says, and that's interesting, we cannot be eternally conditioned because we are part and parcel of Krishna. But it means factually, as a spirit soul, we are not conditioned. We cannot become conditioned because this is, we find in confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. This is the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, verse 33. Yata savagatam sakshmya akasam nopalipyate savatra vasito dehe tatatma nopalipyate. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything. So the sky is everywhere, but it doesn't mix with anything. And it's all pervading at the same time. The soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body. They are situated in that body. So we are kept by these airs in the area of the heart, but we have nothing to do with material nature. In our pure consciousness, we identify with our real self. But when the consciousness coming from the soul is polluted by material nature, by the mode of passion and ignorance, we identify with the body by this contamination. And Krishna, by practicing Krishna consciousness, we are removing gradually this contamination. And we come to the point that we understand I have nothing to do with this world. I have nothing to do with this body. I don't need this body to exist. And Papa said, this is our natural position, ever liberated, eternally liberated. Because we wanted to imitate Krishna, we wanted to become Krishna. So that's the begin of the contamination of consciousness. So if we wanted to become Krishna, as the Mayavadis want to do, therefore in the spiritual world there is Krishna, the only enjoyer. Ekamiva adityam aham bhaktaram tapasam sarvalokmaishvanam. Bhaktaram tapasam sarvalokmaishvanam. That's Krishna's position. Sarvaloka. Not only the Vaikuntha planets, but these planets also. So everywhere, Krishna is the supreme proprietor. Therefore, he is the supreme enjoyer. We cannot be enjoyer. So in the material world, we cannot be enjoyer. We will enjoy only spiritually if we are connected with Krishna. That's our spiritual enjoyment. And we are meant for that higher enjoyment. And in the Bhagavad Gita is explained, Apayam itam famyam prakriti vinime param jiva bhutam abo chaitam tayate jagat. Krishna says, besides this material energy, there is the higher prakriti, apara prakriti, which is spiritual. That's the spiritual nature. And we and the living entities, they are part of this spiritual nature, but they try to exploit the lower material nature. But it's not that because some nature, its lower material nature, we have the right to exploit it. That's the mistake. That we cannot derive any happiness from exploiting the lower material nature. So Sarvaloka, not only the Vaikuntha planets, but these planets also. Everywhere, Krishna is the supreme proprietor. Therefore, he is the supreme enjoyer. We cannot be the enjoyer. That's Krishna's position. That we each can simply be servitor. That is our natural position. Just like a dog, when it serves a nice master, is happy. Otherwise, if it is a street dog, nobody cares for it. Street dog. A street dog has no position. Sometimes they are killed. Similarly, when we live under the full protection of the Supreme Lord, that is our healthy condition. That is our real life. And as soon as we give up this position to be subordinate, to be predominated by the Supreme Lord, we are bewildered. We are thrown into this under the control of this material nature, and according to our work, we get different bodies, 8,400,000 forms of bodies. We get one body after another. Tatadi antarapaptir tirastatra. It's called ever conditioned. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Rupa Brahmanda Brahmati Konya Bhakyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Kripaya Paya Bhakti Lata Beach. So, in this way, Prabhupada said, we are wandering from one species to another, from one planet to another. In this way, Brahmananda, this universe is very big, and there is immense opportunity. You become sometimes demigod, sometimes dog, sometimes cat, sometimes tree. This way we are wandering. That. So this is what Prabhupada is telling us on this verse by describing all the rivers, oceans, hills, mountains, and so on are paying their tax to the king in profusion. That means everything is there for to serve God's in His creation as He desires. So therefore, as devotees, it's good for us to consider our material situation is. We should not take it we should not take it too serious, this material situation. It's very temporary. And it's important to learn and accept your situation as it is. Then you will become peaceful. And you engage in devotional service. Once you engage in devotional service, and you feel connected with Krishna to this devotion, then you feel happy. And that's a happiness that cannot be disturbed by Maya. That no way, that and that should be our goal. That the goal is that we become happy in this material nature by in this material nature, even material happiness. If we want to be happy, we have to cooperate with material nature. And cooperate, living in harmony with material nature, means living in harmony with the controller of material nature. That and follow Krishna's laws. If we don't follow Krishna's laws, we are still criminals. Stop all the criminal acts, trying to exploit material nature, and serve. And these mountains, forests, and creepers have no other way, no other choice than to serve. They are serving Krishna's creation, and we should also contribute to that. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, comments, please.
No one's here.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for your class.
Yep. I wish you a nice day. And I looked at my agenda to next week, and the only day I really could give a class should be next week, Friday. Would that be okay?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, then we should schedule it for next week, Friday, same time. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Will be verse number you will mention, Maharaj, or?
No, you let me know the verse the day before.
Okay.
I follow your schedule.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.